As usual, please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. Need to announce that the meeting is being recorded and televised by WHCA. Seek a motion to approve bill and payroll warrants.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to accept correspondence into the read file.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? And public forum. Nobody in the audience, so assume there's none. All right. Scheduled events, and really our only topic for tonight is conduct interviews for the position of town administrator. If you're looking at the posted agenda, one of our candidates has since withdrawn, so tonight we'll be interviewing Sabrina Chilcott and Stephanie Hirsch. I think for us and the members of the public, this is a job interview. So, I mean, I don't feel like I don't need to say it, but I will say it. Treat everybody with respect. These are their careers, and it's our town. And I believe that Sabrina Chilcott is here. So, do you want to bring her in?
Yeah. Close the door somewhat. I can't close it all the way.
It's an open meeting.
Right, but still,
Yeah.
just in case someone's out there. Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening. Hi.
Hi.
Nice to see everybody.
Good to see you, Sabrina.
Good to see you.
For inviting me back.
Welcome. And we're just adjusting the door to comply with the open meeting law.
Absolutely.
All right, Sabrina, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Welcome back. I know that Chrissy and myself did interview you in the first round, but I think the easiest way to start off is tell us a little bit about yourself and what interested you in applying to be our town administrator.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for having me back tonight. I really do appreciate it. I am Sabrina Chilcott. I'm from your neighboring town, Pembroke. I've been their assistant town manager since 2017. Prior to that, I was their executive assistant. We will do a lot of talk about municipal work, I think, tonight. So to go beyond my work in Pembroke, I also have quite a bit of private sector experience, both in the corporate world, the nonprofit world, and retail, in the offices for credit and collections and credit management. I did human resources for the South Shore YMCA for many years. I enjoyed every minute of it. And the recruitment and the onboarding and coach council training review, I'm a big fan. People development is what my strength largely is. But communicating with residents and department heads and talking to different board members with other board members, it's a really, it's a skill. But I wouldn't want to overstate it. I think we could all do it if we all just were more curious. And I think that I really do approach everything with that mindset of what can I learn? What can I do to be helpful? Did something fall? Can I help? I am a big believer in collaboration, in teamwork, in partnership, and being very results driven. You do see your work. And employees and staff members will all get to benefit by sharing the goals, the objectives, some of the things that we may not cover in a personnel review, which I'm sure you do, but long-range goals and how did we meet up against it and how are you feeling about it, and doing the work that the residents expect. And looking a little bit into Whitman, which was the why would I love to be a part of your community. I won't get here by moving here. You don't have enough houses. I think you need a little bit more. I see you have some other things going on. We'll stop talking about that because I wouldn't want to jump. But the idea of being a part of something that you're building here. Because in Pembroke, I've done this. We were where you are. We decided, and again, there was a lot of other factors that do not apply. So I'm not indicating that they do. But I remember a town administrator, a working board, working with school committee and the finance committee and deep diving and having that shared responsibility. We all work together. You're signing warrants, you're over here approving expenditures. Everyone has their role in the organization. And at the end of the day, this is an amazing opportunity that you've put out on the MMA website. And I am delighted. Scooped it right up, couldn't wait, and here I am.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Thank you.
Dan. You at the bottom of that first page.
I got the first question. Okay. Describe your experience negotiating with employee unions, non-union, department heads, police department, fire department.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so in collective bargaining, you have a team. The town administrator is one person on that team. I'm thinking you would have one or two board members as well that would be driving the mission of the board in a way that the town administrator might not. The town administrator is looking at the overall number, what's been put aside to settle a contract, what are the implications long range on some giveaways, some allowances, stipends, things that can come in. They can seem like a leveler at the end of a deal to close, but the town administrator is always the one with that number in the back of their head. We're partnering with two members or however many members of the select board. You guys bring an even larger overarching picture to the table. And when the time is right, the board makes that decision. But how about negotiating? It's an interesting thing, setting ground rules, going in for the first round, hearing the first proposals, coming back, costing them out, coming with your counter proposals. The town's first proposal is usually about diametrically opposed to what the union's proposal was in terms of generosity. You meet somewhere in the middle. And ultimately, Mr. Salvucci, if everybody goes away a little unhappy, it might be a good deal.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sabrina, I have the third question.
Thank you.
You've had a career in municipal government. Looking back, tell us about your accomplishments that you're most proud of and why.
I have had an opportunity to work with some amazing individuals. A lot of incredible talent has gone through the town of Pembroke. We've been very fortunate, but I've also been able to mentor and work with individuals who went off to achieve great things. So some of my best accomplishments surround the people and the staff, because we have young administrative assistants from Pembroke who are now managing towns in other states. We have done our best to grow and develop from within, to promote people who understand Pembroke, who have those best interests in mind. Now, that doesn't mean that we are that small in terms of the interviewing pool or the talent the net we cast. But when it all comes home and you start interviewing for a role, for example, you're going to give the people in your sphere, the people who are actually stakeholders, a chance to shine. So of my accomplishments in municipal government, I'd probably claim a couple of career paths, which might be hubris. I might be overstating myself, but I've done
was the question.
plans. Thank you. I have put together plans, strategic plan. I was the person who did the coordination, but of course it's a team sport. Housing production plan, same thing. Open space plan. Having to go through the notes on the recreation side of the open space plan was excruciating. And we were between recreation directors. So there's always going to be something when you're organizing your strategic alignment. You're saying to yourself, top, bottom, side, side, my people work, the actual foundational elements that help the board make these decisions, and being able to interact and interface with different groups of people, particularly when it gets contentious. That's when I do my best work, I think. I hope.
Thank you.
Hey Sabrina, nice
Hi.
to see you again.
Very nice to see you.
Tell us about a difficult employee issue you have managed. How do you approach the situation and what was the outcome?
Difficult employee situations are unfortunately part of the territory. And I'm scrolling through what's appropriate and legal to discuss, to be honest with you. I've seen a lot of different types of issues. I have had employees who just are not as committed. So in terms of staffing, you can build a lot, you can teach a lot, you can train a lot, but getting that investment back from someone, that care, that effort, not just physical effort. People are so dynamic, right? It could be anything on any given day. But you're looking at an overall performance and an arc picture. You're saying, okay, you've been, we're going to touch base at the end of a year. But then you'll run into situations where people who are tracking well and achieving goals and excited to be at work clash or have some kind of issue. Hopefully not a legal issue, but sometimes you have to separate folks and you have to actually have conversations. And you always bring in other people. If you have HR, you bring an HR representative. If you don't, you bring your senior staff member, perhaps a treasurer collector or a clerk, and you begin looking into a situation. But bringing the temperature down is oftentimes the best way forward, especially in a hot moment, a crisis, not a crisis moment, but something that could be perceived as such. If you can, in that moment, bring that temperature down a bit, you are likely to have better answers to your questions. You're going to have a more robust conversation. You're going to get better results. Again, I'm a little reluctant to do a specific scenario, but there have been so many, and largely they end well. They do end well. People can be rehabilitated, and that sounded very arrogant, but an employee who understands the level that you're willing to invest in them oftentimes turn around and invest in themselves. They're already invested in Whitman, they're here. But now they need to invest in themselves. Is this the right fit for them? Is this what they want? Are we good? Would you like to reassess your goals? Maybe we're not on the right path. And that sometimes is the challenge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good answers. I have a long-term financial planning question for you. It says, over the next 5 years, Whitman will face significant financial challenges. We need a financial plan that keeps the town on stable ground while maintaining the level of services that our residents expect and preserving the integrity of the town. As town administrator, what core components would you include in the plan, and what pitfalls should we look to avoid?
Excellent question, and deep. So I'm going to take it in a couple of chunks here. When first putting together a financial plan, you know your obstacles and challenges are ahead. Fiscal 28, fiscal 29. Fiscal 31, most people will get some relief with OPEB, but there's still a window here where belts are tightening and revenue is not growing. It's a Commonwealth problem, more so than an individual municipality problem. So as you start to identify the things that you do have local access controls over, we do have specific things, levers, we have plans, we have grants, we have different avenues where we could consolidate different items or things. And when I say we, this is the exact exercise I go through in Pembroke. I'm sorry, it is. It's a very simple fact of the matter. If we offer 11 of these options to residents, but instead offered 8, and could then pay for whatever without going for a debt exclusion, perhaps we talk about cutting or reducing slightly some of the services that people really enjoy. And then you have a couple of public forums or public hearings if you're so inclined, and you start getting resident feedback. If all things were equal, would you rather pay $40 more, or would you rather have those 5 things? I'm all ears, I can't wait. Because this is about the resident, the taxpayer. That's what this is for. You ran, and I'm certainly not trying to make this between you and me, but you ran to represent the best interests of all of your constituents. And that means keeping costs down. And it means doing your best to not cut services, even when the money's not there. So the reality is you have to analyze that problem or opportunity to death. You're going to have to really get it up, and everybody's going to take a look. What is the senior tax abatement? What are we doing over here? For example, why is my legal budget so high? There are some areas that perhaps there's a little bit of movement, and sometimes there's a reason why money is kept where it is. And that's conversations that the town administrator has with the board, usually one-to-one, then in a group, in public, in front of the residents, oftentimes at a public forum, where you're trying to take the temperature and you're saying to people, this is the situation. the more information I give a resident, the more understanding I receive back from them. When I just say it's too bad, it's just expensive and I'm cutting it, there's no way that conversation ends well. It's the wrong approach. And if you're really forecasting for several very difficult years, start those conversations as quickly as you can, especially if you have contracts up for negotiation, potential debt exclusion for school. There are other items that the town has to focus on, and you can do it all at the same time. It's about how you frame it, how you present it, and how you take back the information you're given. People will talk and they will tell you. And if you ignore that, you do it at your own peril. So you have to be really responsive as you make potentially a difficult decision.
Are there formal financial tools or strategies that you would recommend?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I know, and there are consultants and other people that will take a look and point out inconsistencies. It's a very high level look for anything that might have been missed along the way. And those are opportunities. There's always an idea out there that's better than the idea somebody else already had. But you know your people, you know what they're willing to do with and do without. So that feedback has to be front and center in any one of these conversations. I already know that I've got 6,000 people who are going to be calling me next week if this goes through. We have to have a conversation about how to turn this around. Silly example, we used to close the leaves, the area that we would bring leaves to in the wintertime. Because in the wintertime it snows, hopefully you did your yard cleanup, it'll be okay. Pembroke residents decided to drop their leaves off on the lawns of the select board. So we changed that policy and we apologized because that was what was necessary in the moment. And the select board did not get held responsible for that decision either, because we do know how to make it so that it wasn't your fault. The idea being a good idea that just did not land. And it happens. And it's okay. And you hope the next idea is going to be a little bit better. That was not my idea. But yes,
I'm
it
just
was
picturing it in my mind. I'm like, oh my God.
Yes.
I did, I dumped the leaves on the town administrator. I told him I'd dump them in his yard if they closed the leaf pile early again.
Great.
And he lived on my street.
I'll take it. It's good for the insects and
Yeah.
fireflies and all that. You can
Pollinators.
That's so funny.
on the leaves.
Let's back on track a little bit. Sabrina, so tell us about a department head or staff member whom you mentored and developed over time. Where were they when you began, and what steps did you take to support their growth, and where they are today?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. I'd like to bring Brandon back out because he's phenomenal. I happened to already reference it briefly. There are others, but I really would like to talk about him. He's a shining star. So we started with, I worked originally under Ed Thorne. He was our town administrator for 21 years. He's the only town administrator Pembroke ever had. Just wanted to get that on the record. And he allowed me to take a big risk and go out for a temp. Municipal governments do not hire temps from a temp agency. We bring in temporary help at different times of the year when it's appropriate and when, you know, there's funding available for it or the need exists. But in this particular case, we were up against some serious deadlines, projects, and I identified a need and I built a business case and it let me try it. We went to Beacon Hill Staffing. I got a young kid with a public administration master's, got him in, and he did not hit the ground as running as you would hope, because it requires a little bit of experience and mentoring and work. And excitement is lovely, but you have to be careful. There are relationships. Sometimes those relationships are decades in the making and you don't run in. You have to assess the land before you get there. So it was a joy to work with him as he discovered who the stakeholders were on a parcel of land. And then we went to get the money to do an improvement on the property. And it took him 1.5 years of meeting with stakeholders. And he did a beautiful job by the time it was all said and done. And he wound up applying for, and ultimately we got the grant. And he learned a little bit of project management on a very small project. We really had a great time filling out his skill set. And 5 years later, 4 years later, the town decides to go out and interview, get a firm, and hire a town manager. And through those conversations, we identified that Brandon appeared to be pretty ready. And he registered with the same company that we went with, and then went and got his very first job he interviewed for. And he was up in Westfield, Vermont for 6 years. And he did a fine job. Now they've just hired him for Hanover, New Hampshire. Yep. And and honestly, now I use him as a resource. It's a brilliant thing. Paying it forward.
Thank you.
My turn again?
Yep.
Okay. Describe your experience developing and managing municipal budgets. How do you prioritize competing department needs with maintaining physical responsibility? And think about your answer because the police chief's right behind you.
Thank you for telling me that. Ironically, that's always a battle. And in an ideal world, when I first look at it, it's all a matter of where are we now? Where are we today? How did fiscal 26 land? How did we do? So-and-so was over here, so-and-so was under here. We had a little bit of movement here and here. What are we looking for fiscal 27? What are the board's objectives? What are the town's needs? What are we looking for? This department, good example, the town clerk. This is a year with a fall primary and a federal election. So all of a sudden, registrars have to be budgeted differently than they did last year. And you take a look at some of these things and you say, what is discretionary and what is not? And the ones that are not just come off the table. We'll go look at them again. We may have to shake them to see if there's anything left that can come out. But what's discretionary? What are we looking at? And not gonna beat around the bush. It's shared services. Where are my insurance rates coming in? Where are those big numbers coming in? Have we closed any collective bargaining agreements? What's that hit going to look like for the next budget cycle? Did we do a set aside for the amount that I need for town meeting for that first year? So some of those things factor in, and then you have to have department heads and individual meetings with department heads to ask them, where would you recommend a reduction?
Great answer.
Yes, sir. Because a department head would rather partner on that solution than have it handed to.
Mm-hmm.
That is my experience, and that is my opinion. So I'm not sure that I finished answering the question, but you started writing and I'm stopping talking.
Next question.
Yes, ma'am.
Relating to communication with the public. Residents and voters expect their local government to be transparent, responsive, accessible. Can you share and describe your approach to communicating with residents on a regular basis, or also perhaps during difficult or controversial issues? Can you provide an example of a time when effective communication helped build trust or resolved a challenging situation?
Yes, ma'am. We have several ponds and a lot of maintenance that has to be done on those ponds. And there are actually technically no people assigned to do that. So it's always an interesting way that we get the beaches open and that everything comes together. It's a miracle every year. We're very proud of that. It's never quite the same way 2 years in a row. It's largely public works driven, but we also haven't grown our public works department in about 10 years. So we gave them parks and commons and grounds and no bodies. So they're still doing cemetery, highway, tree. Yes, absolutely. So we do the best we can to support that. And regarding resident complaints and issues, those are going to be the ones that tend to be the most hot. Individual property owners who live there year round will have their issues with their potholes, their water bill. Perhaps their meter's broken. Maybe you're going to have that conversation. You may be sending somebody out to do a look you can't do. Look at some specific piece or asset that you can't get in the car and go do, so that you can finish and close a loop with a resident. on an issue. But the summer residents, the ones who come in for the summer, come in hot. And it needs to be the way they like it. And that's a bit different. That's a different kind of customer service experience because you have a shorter amount of time to do something that you're unlikely to do. A lot of our budgeting goes for how far can we stretch every dollar to have the most impact. And we're not necessarily going to refine a small section of a private beach when we could take that money and do more with it. So more often than not, we have to have a bit of an uncomfortable conversation because this summer might not be everything they hoped it would be. But it's possible that we could come up with some material, maybe a little bit of labor. What did they want to see? What is their plan? And working together, trying to get solutions to things, and then knowing how to say, I'm queen of follow-up. In Pembroke, I'm known as the guy that calls you to say, I still don't have your answer, but I wanted you to know I did not forget you. Because we're all leaving for the day, and I said I would call you back, but I'm still waiting for that. It'll probably be Wednesday. And letting people have real expectations. So you don't leave anybody behind. You don't fail to return a call. You don't leave an email out in the ether forever. And sometimes, no, or not today, or it's just not in the budget, or that isn't something we had currently identified as a priority. Thank you for bringing it in. We'll take a look. It's not an answer for today, but it is an acknowledgement and understanding that something may be a problem.
One follow-up
Sure.
question, absent of a complaint or an issue like the pond specific,
Sure.
how have you done communication on a regular basis with citizens? Or is it via website, pushing
Sure.
things out? Do you have email service?
Absolutely.
shares?
So we have on our website, of course, the Notify Me everybody has. I think we have maybe 700 subscribers, which is very low. But we went through a conversion. So we've upgraded the website in the last 8 months. We're a little concerned that everything moved. We're doing a lot of those proofs and testing still now. But we have a Facebook account that reaches on average 4,500 people. And we have a X account.
Yes.
Yes. And that's got, we also have a LinkedIn page for our employment. So we post department head and above type jobs on LinkedIn. Every now and then, if we're not gaining traction at a lifeguard or a custodian, we might still use LinkedIn for that. But we can push messages out. But one of the things we ran into, and I'm sure you've seen it, that idea of people with really good intentions running out and creating a town Facebook. Because that swimming pool or that, tennis court really would love to have more people knowing every moment that it's going to be in use. And you have to go catch the orphans and get people on board and train them on what can and cannot be done. Records retention laws, things that dialogue that cannot happen. Positions that you have to clarify. I'm not speaking as an employee of the town. I'm just discussing my personal item. And that is something we see a lot of. We do tend to see a lot of employees trying to be helpful with public works issues or some other issue. And it's just something else to keep in mind. So having a communication person, or at least someone who's in charge of keeping an eye on it, tends to be key. And a lot of that does default to an assistant. That is not always something that the town administrator is focused front and center on regularly. You want someone to be able to be your resource so you can put the following messages out. The South Shore Recycling Cooperative, they're in the middle cooperative. Right now we're having conversations about a combined hazardous waste depot. And the numbers are a little hard to pin down. So having conversations like that, I just did, I haven't put it out yet, that's going out tomorrow. We're going to be taking another look and surveying our residents. Because we happen to have the highest use, Pembroke, so we're going to pay the freight. We're going to pay a very large percentage of the overall costs. But it's important. And there isn't any other alternative. And we have beautiful bodies of water in our town. So we are not going to just ignore. We're going to figure out how to fund. And that in and of itself becomes an issue for everybody. How does everybody keep pace with these increased costs? And household hazardous waste right now is a runaway train in terms of cost.
Thank you.
As I leave it on a negative. Sorry.
My turn again. Town administrators are often faced with multiple urgent issues at the same time. Tell us about a time when you had to balance competing priorities from the select board, department heads, employees, and residents. How did you determine what needed your attention first and what was the outcome?
That's an excellent question, and it will inevitably happen. And I am sure that is something that occurs pretty regularly. But there's an assessment that you perform when anybody brings you something. I don't even want to try to describe it because it's a very quick thing. You look at each individual issue, whether it doesn't matter. Okay, we double paid the insurance bill. What are we going to do that's $250,000? And at the same time, oh my gosh, do you know that we just had a hazardous leak down at the Ada Hall House? No, because we need $300,000 and I cannot have hazardous waste in the brook. So sometimes you're doing a little bit of this and a little bit of this at the same time. And then yesterday we had the plumber come in and replace the taps. So we can do it all at the same time. But it is a matter of focus and prioritizing and keeping that calm. It really can go sideways quickly. And there's an old adage about if the phone rings and it's the boss, or if the phone rings and it's the customer, you answer the customer first because the residents are paying the bills. So the reality here is no one will be left behind, but there will never be a time that a board member is left out either. It's balance.
Right?
And based on whatever those scenarios could have been, I'm not exactly sure who I would take in that situation first, but it's an interesting point. And around town meeting, we get a lot of that. Because we write the motions, get them back from council, get them to finance. There's so many moving parts around that time of year. And our annual in Pembroke is the second Tuesday of May, which has been moved ahead from April. April was a much better time to do it, but the budget isn't ready. Too much uncertainty. Well, in the middle of May, when you get to where we are now, landing with our local election, it's confirmation, it's baptism, it's all the seasons. Everybody's not available to volunteer at the polls. So now we have a whole other crisis going on over there. And there's always a competing interest. So it's balance, identify, respond, breathe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I have the last formal question.
I think you do.
And you've been doing excellent.
So
This one is on leadership during difficult times. Politics and government can be divisive. Difficult conversations can either divide a community or strengthen it. What strategies have you used to build trust, encourage respectful dialogue, and maintain productive relationships during challenging political situations?
I have always found that I've always found that being available, meeting, getting out in front of an issue, being present, listening, being a part of it, you're going to have these times that come around in a leadership role that are contentious. On occasion, the board may take a position in a bargaining session or something else that becomes sticky. And the reality is everyone gets treated with respect and everybody is heard. And the best decision is made. And you look the person in the eye and you tell them the truth. And then you come back and you say, what is the best way forward? And leadership, yeah, it's all about being the leader. But especially in a town administrator form of government, it's a team. It's these department heads that work so closely with a town administrator who works so closely with you. This is a lot of relationship building, and it's a lot of listening and a lot of respect. Maybe even before the respect is earned. But the reality is you cannot approach a leadership situation in a new town, a new community with new people, and act as though it's Tuesday in the office, because it's not. It's different. And there is some respect to be paid forward. There's a lot of listening to do. And then there is listening and hearing what people are saying, identifying it, and representing it to the people that you folks represent. And, you know, I will not be able to move to Whitman, but I'm gonna be honored if you consider my role in Whitman. And I already feel like an honorary Whitmaner. I've been walking on your park, I'm sorry. But yes, I haven't brought the puppies yet, but I have been over there a couple of times. And it's gorgeous. So,
Thank you.
my 2 cents.
Thanks. That was our prepared questions. Are there any follow-up questions from the board? Don's yelling.
I appreciate that you came and interviewed also for a former position that we had posted.
Yes.
So if I may ask you a question that
Please.
sort of relates to that. At that time, you did say that the town administrator position was not your career path, understandably because you were interviewing for the assistant town administrator position.
That's
at
right.
that time. So that would be fair for you to say. Would you be able to share your further enthusiasm for this role compared to when you felt it was not a career path for you at that time?
Absolutely. So I dared in my remarks, and I didn't look into what it took to be a town administrator. I did not, at the moment, there is not a requirement for a master's degree, which I do not have and will not get. So I was very forthright, probably too candid. I'm not sorry, but I'm kind of sorry because I also felt sad that it was obviously the wrong answer. But honestly, retrospect, hindsight, and thought, again, little debrief, did a little deconstruction afterward and thought to myself, first of all, my current role, I adore it. I'm good at it. I can almost do it blindfolded. It's time for a challenge. It really is. I'm worth betting on.
Mhm.
I have skill. I have a lot to learn. I know that. I'm ready. I'm excited. And I think it's a great idea. But did I think it was such a great idea when I was sitting here for Matt's job? I did not. I did not. And I answer honestly and openly with the information I had at that time. But I am pleased to say I'm here today.
And I'm glad I got a chance to answer that question.
Yeah,
Okay.
one question is now the fact that if you are chosen to be our town administrator, there's a second part of your job that you're gonna have to do, and that is teach our assistant town administrator for your job
You got it.
eventually.
You got it.
You feel as though you can teach Matt, and
Absolutely.
make sure we keep him,
I was going
and
to say,
then move up?
I meant it the night I said it. You
Yeah.
made a great choice. He is perfect for Whitman. Why not? Why not? Yes, I can.
As I say, one of your jobs will be to teach Matt basically everything you know, so that down the line, when you decide to retire, he can step forward.
Sure.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else?
Just quickly, I have really liked a lot of your answers, specifically around relationship building and mentoring and that kind of thing. There is a difference between a town administrator position and a town manager position.
Very much so.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I don't think people watching are familiar with the difference. And they probably use the term interchangeably, but they're not the same position.
They are not the same position at all.
Yeah, can you speak to why I think your personality is really lends itself well to being a town administrator?
I agree
And
with you.
yeah.
But to be fair, you're absolutely right. A town manager. All right, I'm sorry. I'm going to back up. A town administrator form of government was designed so that you could have a physical presence in the building while the direct person elected by the voters got to go do a daytime job to pay their own bills, but come together to make the decisions for the town, the policy decisions, those process calls that people may want to see changed. You are their voice, one-to-one, straight through. The town administrator comes in, opens the door, turn on the lights, sits down, gets started, creates things to present to you. And then this board then takes a look, makes a vote, This board signs the warrants. This board is engaged with the finance committee to talk about budgets, dollars in line items, where things can be cut. You make the decisions. That happens on camera, transparently, in front of your residents on Tuesday nights.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's beautiful. It's a smaller, more intimate, collaborative experience. The town manager is what happened, and the way it was presented in Pembroke, I'm just gonna steal the language. It's like bringing in a CEO. You're bringing in a one individual person that will now be signing. They will hire and fire everyone but town council and the auditor and the fire chief. But now all of a sudden, the board is removed. The board is getting updated on the activities of the day. They're no longer influencing the direction unless they actually press on the manager. And that can be done well, and it can be done not so well. So when you're working with a town manager, you need to make sure that, again, that's, I'm sorry to bring it up again, strategic alignment. Are we all moving in the same direction? Are we all looking for the same things? Are we following up? Are we good? Checking in? And who does that? Because now you have a 5-person volunteer board in charge of the CEO who will update them every 2 weeks. And that can be a place to land and figure out how that's going to work for you. Town managers have far more independent and autonomous authority. They then tell the board how they settle the contract. The board's not part of that process. So would I feel more comfortable starting into this world in an administrator's role? Yes, very much so. I'm looking for a collaborative experience.
And you've acted as TA before, haven't you?
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Yes, I have. I've acted as town manager before as well.
Yep.
Yep,
That's great. Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you. You have another one? Or?
Well, one follow-up
Yes.
on that clarification. I like that question, Sean, town administrator versus town manager. I'm looking at our job posting for TA, in regards to financial management. It does say to prepare annual budgets.
Oh, yes,
So I just
absolutely.
wanted
The
to
town
clarify that you would
administrator
be.
does, yes.
Yeah,
Yes, the
you-
town administrator prepares the budget to present to the select board and advisor or finance committee.
Yeah.
But they don't, I'm sorry, it's not the same death grip that a town manager will have.
It would be like the
Over.
town manager's
It's
budget.
recommended, as a matter of fact, every year, we always had the town administrator's recommended budget. Because the town administrator is here to give you the best professional business guidance they can.
Okay.
And ultimately, the decision makers will be you. And if you don't get that best guidance, if you don't check with council, check with your other managers, find out what's happening in that next town next door. Why is this happening now? You guys need the best information that's the most current to make the best possible decision.
Right, and I think that's it for us. Sabrina, do you have any questions for the board?
I oddly, I was gonna ask if you had any contracts up right now that are heading into,
Yeah, town administrators. Couldn't resist.
We have 2 years left on all of our unions, I believe. So,
could you have left this town in a better position?
we'll see here about the debt exclusion.
Right. That's okay. But thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Sabrina.
And Sabrina, we do plan on, our intention is to vote tonight, so you may want to stick around.
Very good. I have, let's see that out. Thank you very much.
Sometimes I went from a town administrator to a town manager and then said that people,
Make a tough decision.
yeah.
Oh,
it's
okay.
like three-quarter.
Okay. And then they realized.
You know, Board of Selectmen had no say.
Yeah, I think, I believe we're ready to bring Stephanie in, right?
Right?
Hi, Stephanie.
Nice to meet you. Nice to see you again.
Welcome.
Don Byers.
Good to see you again.
I would have stood up, but I have my cane back there.
Oh, no worries.
Nice to see you again.
Stephanie, welcome back.
Thank you.
Christy and I had a chance to interview you a couple
Yes.
weeks ago.
Mhm.
However, the rest of the board hasn't met you yet, so I
Right.
would like to kick it off with tell us a little bit about yourself and what interested you in the town of Whitman.
Sounds good. And would you prefer to be addressed by your formal name, by your select board member?
Oh, you
Evans?
can.
Either way?
We generally use first names as
Okay.
this board,
First
but
name.
yeah,
Would
Okay.
be acceptable.
Sounds good.
yeah.
So first of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to be here. Just a little bit, just an introduction and why I'm interested in the position. Is that what you'd like to do?
Yeah.
Okay, so my life in a nutshell, I'm from Eau Claire, Wisconsin, which is where we're moving from right now. Then went out east for college. And in my 20s, I got interested in local government. And the reason why I'm interested in local government is three primary reasons, and apologies to Chrissy and Justin for this. This is a repeat, but first, I love the operations and systems building of local government. So there's so few jobs where you get to try to understand the nuts and bolts of so many different functional areas. And we know in local government, they're all kind of smushed together into one bucket. And I love trying to understand how each of those works and how they can be improved. The second is I love to be part of a community, to contribute to community building, both among staff and other stakeholders, and then in the community at large. And the third is I have a lifelong mission of helping people. And I came to believe throughout my career that local government is one of the best ways to help people because it touches people's lives in so many ways. And it really makes an impact on their odds or their chances of thriving and being happy and healthy in life.
I
And
like that.
yeah, I think about it every day before I go to bed. When I wake up, it makes me really excited about the position. Even when it's hard, it feels like it's still such a noble enterprise, even when it can be very challenging. So in my career, my main stint was in Somerville, Massachusetts. And I came in with Mayor Curtatone, who was a new mayor at the time, and he was kind of very energetic, if anybody knows him. And he was excited about trying to look at every aspect of operations, every functional area to really create a lot of buzz around Somerville. And so it was really fun to work with him and got a chance to really get into the weeds on every aspect of municipal government with Mayor Curtatone's administration. I did a bunch of different stuff in Somerville, and then we had an opportunity to spend some time in my hometown of Eau Claire, Wisconsin, to be closer to my parents. And I got to be city manager there, which was such an awesome experience, especially because it was my hometown. And now we have a house in Somerville, and we're moving back for my son to start high school in Somerville, at Somerville High. And the reason why I'm interested in Whitman is I just think it's awesome. I love it that it kind of reminds me a little bit of Somerville, that it's a dense community. It's a walkable community. So you have just the 6.9 miles, square miles, and so you have a higher population density than some of the other small towns in Massachusetts. And I think that creates a lot of opportunities. I love it that you have an MBTA stop and that there's so much potential, and that also you all seem like you are forward-looking and excited about the future of Whitman and ready to really dig in and do the hard work. And I would love to help you do that. So it seems like people get along, which I think is great. I mean, of course there's going to be tensions, but it seems like it's a functional, scrappy town that's ready to continue on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan.
Oh, my turn?
Yep.
Ooh. Okay. Please tell us a little about yourself and what interests you.
no.
Wrong.
That was mine.
Wrong one.
Bottom of the page.
Oh, that's one. Okay. You already asked that. Sorry about that. Describe your experience negotiating with employee unions, department heads, public safety leadership, including the police and fire. Yeah, what have you ever, done contract negotiation?
So I'm in my two main communities.
Yeah.
I was part of. I wasn't the chief negotiator in either place. So in Eau Claire, it was managed by a labor attorney, our attorney's
Right.
office, and the HR director. And then in Somerville, I just supported the mayor and HR department. So the main ways that I have supported collective bargaining is through trying to determine what is our asks and what we think would best help the cities and their finances and the employee well-being and community services and the quality of service. I have worked though very much in union environments or collective bargaining environments, and so understand that it can create tensions in the workplace because you might have over on the one side a potentially heated collective bargaining process, but there's still all the people coming to work doing their regular jobs, having to rely on each other and rely on the organization. So I think it's really important to, apart from collective bargaining process, do everything you can to support employees as they go about their business. So showing up for them at roll call or shift change, joining them for training, sitting down one-on-one to listen to what might be going on with them. And then even whether or not it's on the list of wishes for collective bargaining, still continue to make sure that they have the very best possible, healthcare, mental health care, working conditions, training, equipment, facilities. So I have both a lot of experience trying to understand the collective bargaining process and then also just managing within a unionized environment.
We're all going to ask you 2 questions each
Okay.
to see if you're prepared. This is about just your career achievement. So you've had a career in municipal government. Looking back, tell us about your accomplishments that you're most proud of and why.
Sure. I've really, as I said, I've really loved everything I've done. Even though it's stressful in that there's ups and downs, but the whole experience is just it feels like an adventure. And like the most kind of honorable adventure you can undertake. So some of what I was proud of in Eau Claire was, and we can get into this if you're interested, but the fiscal constraints in Wisconsin for municipal government are very extreme. And so our leadership team spent so much time trying to understand how we could balance our budget and still try to preserve this great quality of life, safety net in the community, and employee well-being. And so I'm really proud that we were able to do that and in fact improve employee morale over the time that I was there and maintain employee satisfaction. We did an annual resident survey and an annual employee survey. So I was really proud that we were able to accomplish so much even within those constraints and to undertake some new efforts, even though it required kind of moving money around and piecing it together to try to do anything new. And also in Eau Claire, I was really proud that we created such a big bench of rising managers, just an awesome at every level of people who could step on and, it could even be like a lateral move. So they might move from city clerk to assessor and assessor to treasury, or that I like it that since you're in government, it's nice if you can not just have one path, but you can kind of go here and there. And then as they did that, they get a broader and broader context of the whole operations, which really strengthens the whole community. Other things I'm proud of, one is I'm really proud that we implemented using ARPA funding an asset management system, which is sort of the gold standard in public works. And it's something we tried to do at Somerville for so long. It's just very challenging to do, but it's if you don't already know, the idea is it's a system that tracks every asset, whether it be this, a table, that sculpture, the swings, the pool, and then it tracks every interaction the staff have with those assets, capturing the cost of like the salary costs, the equipment costs, the materials, etc. And then you can overlay onto that customer relationship management system. This is probably wouldn't be in Whitman's next 3-year plan, but there's pieces of it you could still do, and it's really, like I said, it's sort of the gold standard of professionalization of public works and engineering and water, sewer, etc. So I was really proud of that. That's just 2 examples.
Thank you very much.
I think that when I interviewed you before, I may have asked you this question,
Sure.
so
Well, then I should be ready.
indulge me, right? Tell us about a difficult employee issue you have managed. How did you approach the situation and what was the outcome?
The kinds of typical employees, as an executive, the types of employee situations that are difficult are largely, would be somebody has a DUI or interpersonal issues or a complaint filed about them, and then it goes through an HR process of documentation, counseling, etc., and series of consequences and ultimately potentially termination. And so that's a kind of a concrete problem that or challenge that all HR departments and executives and managers have to be involved in. Some of the more kind of general challenges, I would say, and Sean, you actually asked about this when I listened to the assistant interview about mental health, and it's something that as probably managers everywhere, but certainly in the municipal level, the mental health challenges or stress that our staff are experiencing seem to kind of grow because they're growing everywhere, but also because they're working in a very, very fiscally constrained setting. So they're kind of being asked to do more and more with less. And also it's really politically heated sometimes, so they can be the brunt of people's frustration or anger, and it can kind of get taken out on staff. So that's a more high level issue, that challenge in HR that we grappled with and tried to find lots of different ways to address it. But I'll just mention a third, which is one that weighed very heavily on my mind, which is that our police department, as you know, police departments all over are challenged to recruit and retain employees, and there's a lot of competition for lateral hires. And part of it, I think, is just kind of a diminishing or diminished support for police because of things that have happened in the past 5 years. And then at the same time, they're experiencing more and more calls for service and harder calls for service. So they're very far downstream of whatever social ills come along. They are the ones responding, whether it be mental health issues, substance misuse, alcohol, a lot of alcohol misuse in Eau Claire and Wisconsin in general, domestic issues. And so it was very hard to watch them be criticized in the public at the same time that they were really at the very front line of dealing with the hardest work that's out there. And so I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to support them and make sure they were doing okay. And they're very young because there has been so much turnover. So a lot of people in their 20s. And so I tried to do as much as I could to spend time with them, to try to tell their story in the public, tell their story to the council, to make sure that they had what they needed to be successful and safe. But yeah, it's a challenging issue in general.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, I thought your resume was excellent. Thank you
Oh.
for sharing, and thanks for interviewing with us. I'm going to ask you a question about long-term financial planning.
Okay,
Over the next 5 years, Whitman will face significant financial challenges.
right.
We need a financial plan that keeps the town on stable ground while maintaining the level of services our residents expect and preserving the integrity of the town. As town administrator, what core components would you include in the plan, and what pitfalls would you recommend that we avoid?
So I think having a long-term financial plan is a good basic building block of a budget but ongoing budgeting process. And we in Eau Claire, we actually worked with our financial advisor to build it out with more details. And usually a long-term plan of any kind, I don't know if there's any finance, well, you're a finance guru, but if there's other finance gurus, you can correct me, but like it could have different contingencies. So assuming if interest rates go up or if room tax or you don't have any hotels, if any meals tax goes down or whatever. So you can have, if health insurance goes up at 15% or 12%, so your long-term plan can include different kind of scenario modeling, best case, worst case, average case. So that, and it can, ideally it would link to a lot of other spreadsheets or models. So like you might have a whole salaries model, assuming you settle contracts this way or that way, it's going to come out like this, a health insurance one, a utilities one, and so that kind of rolls up into your long-term plan. But if you're interested in thinking about how to address the overall challenges of the finance too, yeah, so Whitman is definitely in a difficult position. I mean, so many communities are, so you're not alone in that. I don't know what all you have tried. I do know that you tried to have the override, but I would want to work with you and the finance committee and our finance staff, and we have you have an advisor probably, or
A financial
a
advisor.
financial advisor, yeah, to try to turn over every stone to think about what are different options you could pursue. So you did prepare like cut scenarios, but maybe you could expand it and try to think about all the different possible scenarios. There isn't really any like magic silver bullet. It all comes down to somebody having to pay more for something or somebody getting less services. But then at least you have kind of a whole toolkit of what you could consider pursuing. And it might be like mix and match, like you want to increase your CPA percent to 3% and do a partial, like instead of asking for 2 million, you ask 500,000 and you shift the forestry into the stormwater account if you haven't already done that. So like you might have a menu of what you can pick. In Eau Claire, we just every day, it was like literally every day we talked about this. It was so hard because just as a really big, sorry, I don't want to go too far afield, but so in Massachusetts you have Prop 2.5, which means your budget can increase by 2.5% plus growth.
Mhm.
So in looking at Whitman's growth, it looks like it was pretty high. Like I looked at the last 5 years, and so it started off pretty high, and then in the more recent years it's been like below 1% or something like that. So your growth is like 2.5% plus 0.6%. So you can increase your budget by about 3%. But we know that inflation is 4% or up to 7%. So if you look at the cumulative, how much you have been allowed to increase your levy, it works out to, I think, like 18% or something. But if you look at the cumulative inflation, it's like 26%. So that's the structural deficit in Massachusetts, everywhere, and in Whitman. In Wisconsin, though, there is no 2.5% adjustment. So it's 0 plus growth. So that's why Wisconsin communities are kind of like what you're going through, like even more extreme. And so that's what caused us to have to think about every possible tool in the toolkit. And, it's like, I think like picked that somebody 20 years ago, the manager picked the low-hanging fruit, and then somebody started to slice off the branches, and now they're kind of at the point where they're just cutting down trees, so. But that's what I would recommend, is trying to try to develop as many tools as possible, even if none of them is perfect. I will say though that growth is the only kind of solution that helps and might have other additional benefits. It's not just moving this cost around, it's actually creating more people to carry the load, more parcels to carry the load. And so that's what I would really encourage, unless they change the levy limit formula. Communities in Massachusetts, they're probably going to be best off if they're able to grow, because you get 2.5 plus growth and then growth brings other things too, like amenities or customers for the coffee shops, and that would be my advice, is to really think about growth as a strategy, and something like hotels. And you probably heard hotels, people love them. My old finance director would say 2 bites of the apple. It's actually 3, because you get property tax and room tax and meals tax. But it's a 4th is that it also enables people to visit your community, and so it's an amenity. So I think that would be my suggestion, is to list out all the possible tools, all the best practices, figure out which ones we can live with, talk to the public about it, talk to your stakeholders, your committee members, and then just chip away at it, just pursue it. So it's sort of like a multi-tiered effort.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Can you tell us about a department head or staff member whom you mentored and developed over time, and where were they when you began working together? What steps did you take, and where are they today?
Yeah, I love that question. That, like I said, that was really something I really enjoyed, especially as my own kids get a little older. So it's just so fun to work with the younger folks and the energy they bring and the creativity and stuff. One, I would say, group as a whole is in our public works department. It's called community services, and it includes transit, utilities, recreation, parks, and streets and fleet. And so all that whole team just happened to be younger by my standards, and they were just awesome and so fun, and listening to them talk. And I thought that one thing that I think was important and helpful was to encourage them and also promote them. Like, so they were all internal promotions, but like you could look back and see how they had opportunities to learn. Another thing that was really cool is how close they were. So how much they sought each other for advice and collaboration, and how they could problem solve in a ways that like hadn't been were kind of the breakthrough way. Yeah, so really, really cool. And they'll definitely be the face of, hopefully they'll all stick around, and they'll be the face of the future of government. And whether they stay in Eau Claire or go elsewhere, it doesn't matter. They are like rock stars. And they also like embrace technology and change, and really fun. And the one thing that so 2 ways that they really needed help sometimes with, like everybody needs help, is thinking through really challenging, like in Eau Claire, as here, maybe even more so here, you don't have a huge team. You don't have like a second in command or third in command. It's like, you don't really have anybody to bounce ideas off of. So you're kind of like, all right, I'm trying to do this really hard thing, and I don't really know exactly how to do it. So they sometimes would want that kind of help. Like, how could we test this out? Or what's the next step? And then the other thing that I think was a learning curve for them is issue spotting. I would give an example, but since this is being recorded, maybe I won't. But sometimes they wouldn't know exactly, like, because it wasn't their job, and it's not intuitive. But like, what kinds of things are really going to ruffle feathers, and how do you avoid that? So that was something that was, I would talk to them about, is like, okay, let's think about how this is going to play in the city council or the community.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next. Describe your experience developing and managing municipal budgets. How do you prioritize competing department needs and maintaining fiscal responsibility?
Budgeting has been, like, people come to municipal management through different routes, and my route was through performance management and finance. Not like auditing, or not accounting, but more like financial analysis. And so since I started in Somerville, I helped prepare the budget. It was a pretty like detailed, with a lot of data, performance goals linked to a strategic plan. And then in Eau Claire, I worked very closely with our finance director to also prepare our budget. So that's a really core skill set that I have is budget preparation. And in terms of choosing between, departments or priorities, it's really hard. And I know that, all of us go through that, like, do you cut across the board? If you have to cut, how do you do it? You cut across the board, you cut non-essential, whatever. It's just super hard and very painful.
Bless you.
So, and I think I mentioned this to Justin and Chrissy, but the one thing that I've wanted to do and worked on every place I've gone is thinking about how do you have some kind of performance management system. And that sounds kind of fancy, but it's really, in my view, it's just getting together in a very consistent and structured way with each functional area to talk about their budgets, their spending, their revenue, their staffing, their activity data, just really basic. Like, what are you working on? How many of that did you do? And then what are you struggling with? How can I help? How can another department help? And what's on your to-do list? Are we going to meet those goals? Should we knock them off? Should we add something different? And if you have that very regular check-in with each of the functional areas, then when it gets to be budget time, it's not like you've already spent the whole year. It's just a year-round, a continuous or kind of organizational learning process. So it's kind of have an intuition about what probably should happen. And then the elected officials, of course, have a say too. So in Eau Claire, like I said, it was just extremely challenging, but we prepared a whole list of options, and they had to complete this worksheet to say what they wanted, where they wanted to raise revenue, what they could live with cutting, et cetera, et cetera. And then we tried to work off of their recommendations.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next question about public communication.
Yeah.
So residents and voters expect their local government to be transparent, responsive, and accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Describe your approach to communicating with residents either on a regular basis or during difficult, controversial issues. Provide an example of a time when effective communication helped build trust or resolved a challenging situation.
Sure. So one, just on the being part of the community, that's like one of my favorite things is just being out and about and talking to people and talking to every shop owner and every church and every social club. And it was so fun walking through the park and seeing all the people out. It seemed like a postcard from, New England postcard.
Yeah.
It's so neat. But, those people, yeah, they're out there out and about talking to them just in a kind of informal way. And then I'm definitely up for any kind of more formal or scheduled outreach as well. And in Eau Claire, I did both a weekly newsletter, which could be like monthly, but just to talk about what was going on and highlight employees and their struggles and stuff like that. And people just loved it. Like every time I sent it to 17,000 residents, and I think like I could check that half of them opened it. So, and my parents read it very carefully every week and sent me comments. But yeah, so that was a great way. And then every week people email me back and with questions and stuff. And so, and you guys also do have, your town. I don't know enough about this form of government to know what role the people on the town committee serve. Like, are they people you communicate with more regularly, or and then you have other committees, and so like what are those other existing formal structures that you have, and how do you include those folks in on your kind of like learning process and as you think through issues? So that would be something that I would have to try to understand. And then separately, I'm interested in constituent services more kind of a systems level. So what can you do to behind the scenes, or to make it really easy for people to ask for help from the town? And how can you, if they do ask for help or have a question, how can you make sure you deliver it to build that trust? I think that's one of the most important kinds of forms of trust, is to really listen, write it down, resolve it, or say it's not possible to resolve it, and then get back to that person. That's like, I think, the most basic level of kind of trust building.
Thank you.
Okay, me again. Town administrators are often faced with multiple urgent issues at the same time. Tell us about a time when you had to balance competing priorities from the select board, department heads, employees, and residents. How did you determine what needed your attention first, and what was the outcome?
That seems like kind of like an everyday situation, especially when you're really short-staffed. So you could be like having to cover lots of operational duties. I'm like relentless about having this to-do list set for myself, and I like every half an hour I look at it. So I have it like by item, like day I'm gonna do it, order I'm gonna do it, and then so that's like I just try to keep prioritizing what's the most like high stakes of those. Yeah, I think that's just kind of like life in the, but it's also fun and exciting. It's definitely never boring. Like I have never had a day in local government where I've like, oh, the hours are just. It's like, you know, the saying when if anybody has little kids, like the years are short, the days are long. No, yeah,
Yes.
it's like the opposite in local government. The days are short because you get there and by you look up, it's over. You know,
I always say.
But then at the end of the year, you're like, oh my gosh, did all that happen this year? So it's like, there have been times where, if this is what the question is about, where the staff really disagree. I mean, this happened a lot. The staff really disagreed with the council, and that's kind of a different challenge.
I have the last question.
Yeah.
This is about leadership during a difficult time. Politics and government can be divisive.
Yes.
Difficult conversations can either divide a community or strengthen them. What strategies have you used to build trust, encourage respectful dialogue, and maintain productive relationships during difficult political situations?
That is a good question. That's really relevant to Wisconsin and Eau Claire because it's just like extreme partisan fighting right now. It's hard to know how to help people get along better with each other. I think in the city government, I know like within this, among the city employees in Eau Claire, it's totally nonpartisan. So nobody talks about politics. And that was something that we really fought to preserve. And I remember talking to the directors on it was like the general election, and we were just kind of saying like, how are people going to be happy, sad, whatever. And the fire chief said, well, our crews know each other really well, and they know how much others, that they know the comfort level of what they can say, what they can't say, because there's just a really basic trust that they have. And so it might mean zero conversation about politics, or maybe for some they talk about it offline, you know, but so I guess within the staff, it's just going back to the basics of respect and trust, and focusing on the real meat of our responsibilities, which is caring for people, those shared values. Just the national politics has got to be outside of that, and we'll just affirm and celebrate the ways that we agree. And it's cool to be in a place where you do get a chance to have so much in common, regardless of the national politics. For the community in general, getting along, I don't know, that's sort of hard, but I think it's probably something of the same if you have the bandwidth to do that, to like go back to like finding that common ground of what we care about our kids, we care about baseball, we, you know, respect, and trying to find ways to affirm that. But yeah, that's a tough one.
I agree. Tough question.
Yeah.
Part of Whitman is very traditional,
Yeah.
and part of Whitman is really progressive. It's a really cool combination of the two. Can you speak to that combination? I mean, it's kind of I guess it is connected to the bringing different groups together in a way. But you mentioned that you really kind of enjoy people who are wanting to do for like some change and some progressive kind of stuff, which there's lots of people in Whitman that very much would embrace that. And there's also people who are a bit more traditional, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, and Whitman is a cool combination.
Yeah,
So,
that's kind of like Somerville. It's like that, and it was really fun because you had the like, and I don't know if this is exactly like Whitman, but at the people, the old timers in Somerville, they were so passionate about Somerville. You know, so they said, well, I remember when we porch, you know, we'd sit on our porches and or these block parties, or we, you know, like they had so much rich kind of community that they brought to it. And so there was a real connection between, they had a lot to contribute to the conversation about how to maintain a fabric of a community and how to take care of each other and how to maintain our social institutions like churches or scouts or the, you know, and so like really finding what do they, those people who have spent their life here, what do they, like, what are they passionate about, and finding ways for them to express that and teach us how to bring that kind of, those basic building blocks of community and keep that alive, because it's, that's like the best kind of place is where you have people who have those traditions. Let's keep them alive. Let's like boost them up and add to them, and then also make room for additional people. Yeah, that would be my.
We just need a Legoland here.
Thank you. That's all of our prepared questions. Are there any other follow-up questions from the board?
I have one actually.
Sure.
I don't know enough about Eau Claire,
Yeah.
but Somerville, I feel like the government would be much more bigger and specialized. in a way.
Yes.
Here, kind of being a jack of all trades goes with the territory. You know, we don't have a
Yeah.
financial planner,
Yep.
we don't have a personnel director. You know, so somebody, you feel like you're prepared to play that role as opposed to being a bit more specialized and.
Yeah.
You can speak to that.
Yeah, that definitely is part of what appeals to me. Is I love getting into the weeds of all of this and just rolling up my sleeves and helping with any. I mean, as many of the ones that I legally could do, I would love to be like prepared to be a backup for, provided I could still do all the other things I need to do. But yeah, I really enjoy those parts of it. So I'd be happy to get a CDL and be out snow plowing. You know, like I would like to get as many licensures that are. I probably can't be like a paramedic, but you know, a bunch of them I could. So yeah, that really appeals to me, and seeing how they all fit together.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Follow.
Don.
Stephanie, just to follow up on in Eau Claire, when you resigned and gave your notice, I want to give you an opportunity to speak to this because I did read something that mentioned you resigned
Yes.
in one day and that your contract was up for negotiation. So really in hopes to hear in the event someone were to say, oh, what if she were to up and leave Whitman, right? If there's any circumstances you want to talk around that or you're able to, I'd be happy to hear your side of it because I never want to believe everything I read on the internet, right?
Sure. I mean, I think it was just that it's a little strange because it's televised, but basically, it was left on really good terms, and I think I shared the evaluation with you.
You
and
did.
So
And thank you. And that was favorable. I will add that it was 85% favorable.
yeah, it was. I think it was
yes.
really positive from both the staff and the council.
Yes.
And so it's, you know, it's political. Ultimately, it's a political environment, and that's something that the council has power over. And the timing did work out. The deputy city manager became the city manager. It was somebody I worked with really closely, so it's a lot like really good continuity. And then the timing worked out for my family to move back to Massachusetts, which had been their plan.
And essentially, you did fulfill your contract.
Oh,
in
yeah,
essence,
yeah, I did,
too.
yeah.
It wasn't though you left a whole year
No,
in the
no, no.
contract. Right. I just want to clear that up.
Yeah, it was
Thank you.
4 years, and it was a very challenging because of the financial situation, and it's big. It's like 74,000 people with a small. Our budget's like 90 million. So if you know, Somerville's budget is like 3 times Eau Claire. So it's really, really a lot of work on a small group of people. But it was really fun. It was thrilling. It was my hometown. I think we did an awesome job. I think I left on really great terms with, and you know, I guess somebody checked the references. So I'm really proud of the work we did, and I'm proud to contribute what the new stuff I learned in my next role.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yep. Anything else? Then Stephanie, do you have any questions for us?
I would be curious to hear, if you have the time, if you think about Whitman 10 years into the future and it's realized its full potential, like you think it's just done everything it could do, what would it look like to you? Yes.
I think there's something really special about a small community that is self-sufficient. Creating implementing strategies that allow us to become more self-sufficient. I think talking about some of the progress and also keeping the integrity of our community, our traditions, so it still feels very much like home, but adding some new element, that's for me. More children, I think this is an excellent place to raise children.
Definitely. Yeah.
Some more young families.
Yeah.
I would add, I like that you complimented the town, and it is sort of quintessential, like New England town with the park,
Yeah.
and the downtown is walkable. And we hear a lot, though, you talk about in 10 years, right? Many people don't want more housing. It's
Right.
too crowded, there's too much traffic, we don't want to become a city like Brockton.
Yeah.
And well, I would agree with that too. We don't want to be too congested. I think back to the history I've read about Whitman back in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. There were factories here. This was a
Oh, such a
bustling
good point,
industrial town where the train ran back
Right.
then, and there were factories. So it was busy then. And I think there's potential, and that remains to be seen what it becomes in 10 years, but I like to think of we're still what we were.
That's a cool image. I can picture it.
And
Well,
even
hustling along.
yeah,
down the
and
main
even the
street.
factories, the employees had bands, and in our auditorium here, they would
Oh.
the bands would play, and people would come out and have community gatherings, and it was all for one and one for all, really.
That's kind of a cool example of where the old timers, maybe some of them remember that and can talk. That when you think about when you get ready to do your your master plan, and think about that visioning, like it might harken back to the history.
That does.
Generations, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, thank you for asking that question.
I wish we used to have a historical museum. We don't have that
Huh.
anymore. I'd like to get it back, but whenever. All the factories that we have here now are apartments. In fact, my daughter used to work. One worked in the shank shop. One worked in another part of the factory, right? But I think a lot of people are complaining that we're getting more and more housing here, but it's needed for what we need to get done in the town. For what,
Yeah.
I mean, we got a fire department that's going 24/7,
Right.
right? And police department, same thing. At DPW, right now they're in the middle of redoing roads. Mine will be coming up soon, hopefully. They're marking it off. But I mean, there's a lot of work to be done
Yeah.
in a small town with a small budget. That's the big problem.
Yep.
So having more housing, more businesses helps pay for that.
Yeah,
stuff,
it does. Yep.
And yeah, kind of echoing the same comments as everybody else. Yeah, I think that, we just completed an economic development study, a downtown revitalization study that said that, retail leakage is an opportunity for
Right,
us, where like
right.
we've got a lot of residents in Whitman that are going
Right.
to Hanover or Abington or Weymouth
Yeah.
to do their shopping.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we have this beautiful downtown that's adding additional multi-use buildings with commercial spaces. And it just seems like the perfect opportunity if we can make it fit.
Right.
So I think that is, the vision is, I guess, a more vibrant downtown.
Yeah.
That Whitman can be the destination that, in this region that we
Definitely.
don't have.
Yep.
You know that we used to have an amusement park on Route 18? The kids went, yeah.
King's Castle.
Yes. It was like a mini Storyland, if you know that in
Yeah.
New Hampshire,
that's
Storyland.
cool.
It's called King's Castle Land
Yeah.
I love that place.
with rides and little.
Yeah, funny.
I'm old enough to remember that, so.
Any other questions for us?
I just wanted to mention that I love your vision, everybody's vision, and I if you do hire me, I think it'd be really great to work with Matt, who brings the planning background and also the connections to the Old Colony Regional Plan Commission, and So I think that we can make a lot of progress on your vision and other projects too, like one of the meetings you're talking about, the capital plan, which the Collins Center had worked on. I've worked with the Collins Center a lot over the years, and that's something that I could definitely do that myself. And also, I think that thinking about living in Somerville, which is like 80,000 people in 4 square miles, so that's really dense. But it's like sometimes you can just create magic out of these. It's a special place, and people love coming home, and they love coming to their community because there's cool things happening. And it could be like in Somerville, one thing we did was I organized it. It was an annual urban camp out in the park, and the kids just loved it. So it's like there can be these little kind of magical things that don't cost a lot. So I would like to work on that, and people need a place to live in Massachusetts, and they need a safe place, and they need a place, where they can know their neighbor and walk to the town hall and walk to the library and go walk to the pool, and that's what you creating that community for them. So I think that there's a lot of promise for that. And if this isn't a sign, my Whitman Day was celebrated on my birthday. Consider that. Yeah.
We should have mentioned at the top of the meeting, today is actually National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day.
Oh,
It is?
Yeah.
Right.
yeah. So that's.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think that's it for us.
Okay.
The board does plan to deliberate and decide tonight before adjourning into executive session to kind of set the parameters of what we can offer.
Okay.
But I believe if you want to stick around, we'll be.
Okay. So I
making a
should just
decision.
go wait outside.
Yeah, do you want to wait outside? Unless, is
Yeah.
the board more comfortable with them inside?
That's up to
Probably
the board.
not. Yeah.
I think it's probably most comfortable if you wait outside.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll bring. Yeah.
And then I'll just watch later.
Exactly. Yeah. You'll see it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that the.
Now you can shut the room.
I think it's still an open meeting.
session.
We do still want to leave
Not
it.
all the way. It's
correct.
not exact. We
Huh?
can't close it
Yeah,
all.
we're not going into exec to decide. So
We're
I
gonna wait till. So
no, we're still in open session, Dan.
We're in
Right.
open
Oh,
session.
okay.
So I think at least my intent was for us to come to a consensus, sort of informally, and then seek a motion and a vote for whoever has the support, the town administrator.
Okay.
Before we then, so we decide on who, subject to negotiations, we would appoint, and then adjourn into executive session to kind of lay out the groundwork for what those negotiations can look like, to give Mary Beth and myself and possibly Matt a week to come to terms, come back to the board for next week's meeting where we can hopefully sign that contract.
Right.
So, if that sounds good with everyone. Kind of open the floor to discussion. I think you can see why Chrissy and I, along with Mary Beth and Dan Kelly, thought so highly of these candidates. They definitely have very different backgrounds, bring different things to the table. But where is everyone's opinions?
Want me to start it?
Want to?
Both candidates are very nice,
Mhm.
very nice. But to my knowledge, our first candidate, Sabrina, was a little bit more knowledgeable as far as running, being a town administrator and running town. I think she's just so knowledgeable. And I think would be perfect setting, perfect person for the town to run out, be the town administrator, plus teach our assistant town administrator going forward. Second candidate that we had, she was from a different, area of government. I mean, she would seem to me more like an advisor than, so, I mean, I don't think she is really ready yet to be, but I think our first one, Sabrina, is ready to be a town administrator.
Sean?
I'm definitely torn. I think they both are excellent candidates. Stephanie, I feel like, has a lot of really high level experience that could really we could really benefit from some of the systems level thinking she was talking about, and performance review type stuff. I'm intrigued by, you know, a lot of the community development, simple things like that sleepover, I think is like really cool, you know, organic stuff that would really complement what we do well. On the other hand, I think Sabrina she feels really familiar, and it seems like the way that she was talking about relationship building, and specifically for the role of town administrator, as opposed to a town manager, and the higher level stuff that Stephanie has more experience doing. I feel like Sabrina could come in and facilitate the town administrator role. Like she said, she knows it inside and out at those systems at Pembroke. Come here and build relationships, and really, I do think it is a unique personality style, and something that maybe a lot of people again don't quite understand the difference between a town administrator and a town manager. But I think a town administrator has a unique skill set that is different than a town manager, and she does seem to have that skill set as far as relationship building and mentoring and working with Matt. I can see them really working really well together, and that's important to me right now. I feel like our financial team is young, and they're up and coming, and they would really thrive off some mentoring. So that's where I'm kind of torn.
I agree.
I'll go next.
Sure.
And I'm not gonna be sad about whoever we pick, because they're both excellent.
Yeah, I don't think there's no losing in this. I think we've
Exactly.
got, yeah, two excellent
Exactly. I have Stephanie just a little bit above Sabrina, and I really like Sabrina's personality, and I like how she's very, direct. She's very direct. I like Stephanie's, she seems to have a lot of empathy. She wants to help. She has a ton of experience doing all kinds of things. So I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna go with Stephanie for my vote. That's just,
I was kind of torn. I don't know where
it's hard.
you are,
It's
Dawn.
very hard.
I know that, you know, at least looking at all the candidates, these two candidates, you know, Stephanie comes, you know, the resume's not in front of the public, but, you know, Harvard MBA, a partial PhD in sociology. I know it doesn't look like she completed it, but I mean, really all the experience you could ask for. And I did look up Eau Claire. It's a city council, city manager form of government. So it is actually, I think, comparable to Bridgewater here, with a lot more people, where it's sort of organized like a city, but then there's an appointed executive to run the day to day. So that I think that would be an easy transition. Although you look at someone like Sabrina, who's coming in, who would come in with, I mean, really practical experience in the day to day. So it's two very different opportunities in front of us. I think our staff would work well with either one of them, because we have a young staff, pretty eager to learn. I think each of those candidates could offer a lot of mentoring in very different directions. So I'm curious, you know, where you're at.
So you're not.
Yeah,
yeah, you're leaving it open.
I'm leaving it open.
Lots of great qualities of both of them with, in looking at their resumes, and I was very interested, obviously, to hear the interviews tonight. Sabrina having a strength in HR and personal relationships, and I felt that come through a lot in the interview. So I was interested and I felt Stephanie's strength was more budget data analytics. From reading her resume, because the resume spoke to preparing and administering operating capital budgets, manage budget development. So I was hoping to hear more of the nitty gritty on the budget development and so forth during the interview. So I didn't hear as much as I had hoped to hear on details of budgeting, because I think that's our number one priority, along with relationships in town. But being budget focused. And then there were things that I appreciated about Sabrina, right down to little things organizational. I remember she talked about, and this might have been her previous interview, but organizing packets for the committees and the boards and things she's done, just, and she said it in this interview, it's become second nature to her, the job that she's doing in that role, so she is ready to take on that next leadership role. I felt like, again, looking at the resumes, my mind was leaning towards Stephanie because of her city manager experience and that leadership quality that she already has displayed in those jobs. Thought it would be good to bring here. And I guess if I had time and I scored them, I think Sabrina would come out with a point more on top. But they're so close, and it really depends on what you want to put on a priority, I think, for their skill sets and their strengths. So they're really balanced.
It's a tough choice. I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
They're both excellent. They're both excellent. I know very well the team that we've assembled recently here, especially at Town Hall, but we have new employees, DPW, library, all across the board. I'm thinking of Matt and mentoring Matt. So I would say that Sabrina comes out just a little bit above.
I'll make a motion then for Sabrina.
Do we have a second for that?
Say it again.
So the motion to appoint subject to negotiate, to appoint Sabrina Chilcott as town administrator subject to negotiation.
Subject to negotiation.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion from the board? I think I would just add that, I think that I'm kind of caught where everybody else was. I think that Sabrina would be a better personality fit for the role, if that's a way to make it a tiebreaker. Right. I think that the town hall staff will immediately be drawn to her in a way that Stephanie would probably get there, but may have more of a growing pain to do so.
And I would like to add Sabrina's experience with HR again.
Oh, yeah.
Just to be that, because I think I just said budget's so important. Now I'm going to say HR is so important, right? And she has that direct experience in that HR role.
Yeah.
And I'm certain that Stephanie has been exposed to that.
Absolutely.
And experienced that. She's worked with many people. I'm gonna lean towards Sabrina.
And it is nice to have sort of in the back of our minds that, Mary Beth as well as the board have assembled a really strong financial team that feel confident in that not being our number one priority, making this decision. So, okay. That's that. We have a vote. All in favor? Unanimous. Want to bring it back in? We'll make a motion first. But... Yeah.
Oh, we gotta come out of executive.
We will need to. We're going to invite them both back in. Tell them what we just did.
Okay. And then we're going to executive.
Thank you.
So welcome back. The board was thrilled with both of you. Unfortunately, we can only offer the job to one of you. And Sabrina, the board just made a motion to offer you the town administrator position, subject to successful negotiations. So
Thank you very
congratulations.
much. Thank you, Stephanie.
And Stephanie, we wish you well. I'm sure you're going to land.
It was a very difficult
Yeah.
decision.
Well,
Very hard.
thank you for chatting with me. I really enjoyed it, and I'll be watching and cheering you on. You're walking over.
Thank
Yeah,
you
yeah,
so
pretty good.
much. Thank you.
Bye, Stephanie. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sabrina, the board does plan to go into executive session to lay out the terms of negotiations and then invite you back next week to hopefully sign a contract and
That is
get a start date and everything in place.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. May I?
Yes.
Absolutely.
May I approach? Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you very
Congratulations
much.
and welcome.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
See, aren't you glad that I
Thank you.
went to Matt last?
You know. Thank you
Congratulations.
so very much. I really
Looking forward to
Yeah.
working with you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Still in open session, like I said.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank
guys.
you.
Have a great night.
All right, so now the board needs to, I need a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel for the town administrator.
So moved?
Roll call vote,
Yes.
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 All right, we are in executive session. We will come back only to adjourn.